All right. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new. Actually, I'm going to need these. So, my wife, the source of almost all my content, gets something in her Twitter feed about an essay that someone wrote, and she put it on the uh, audio and it read it to us, and we went back and we looked at it, and it was a good essay. It very often I will more light. Very often I will castigate these things as weak, weak, you know, weak sauce, limp biscuit, no good, too little, too late, not grounded in reality, and all those things. But this was grounded in reality. It was by a guy named that's why I named my glasses, by a guy named James Dyke, and he is associated with the University of Exeter, and he was writing with co-authors, and I think they're all from the UK. And they were writing in the Conversation, which is the UK. And I'll read the title. The title kind of describes it all, but there's some nuance here that I have to get into that actually may come as something of a surprise to you, even if you're familiar with this space and you're up on climate change and you're familiar with the IPCC reports and the process therein and the COPs, and you're kind of on top of this and you're watching the data and you're listening to the scientists. There's still something that's going on that you probably aren't aware of. It's pretty nasty. And that's what this article is about. This article is triggered by the nastiness that has happened in the IPCC process. They did a really shitty thing in the last report. I think they even started the shitty thing in the report prior. And these reports are like 7 years apart, right? So for 14, 15, 16 years now, this has been floating around. And it's just this shitty deal that they worked out. It's just backstabbing, blackmailing, crappy, back room, smoke-filled room, good old boy, fat cat bullshit, right? In the IPCC report, which has recommendations for policymakers, and it's shitty. Okay, it's just shitty. It's just petty. It's just petty, small-minded, shitty crap they pulled on us. So here's the title, and that's what he's writing about. Okay, I'm not the only one thinking this. That they pulled a fast one on us, and even when the report first came out, lots of people pointed out, they're saying that's just shitty to even say that. What they just said is just bullshit. Okay, and it's worse. It's a lie. They're just liars. Yes, I'm angry because it wasn't supposed to be about lies. It was supposed to be about the science. Can we just back up a minute and just first principles? The IPCC process is supposed to be about revealing science and making recommendations to policymakers based on science. That's what it was supposed to be about. But now it's in the hands of the energy sector and the fossil fuel industry and all of these smarmy, compromised politicians, and they're laughing and taking the money, and they're going to all these foreign countries with the suitcases full of $100 bills, and they're just having a big orgy of money, and they're laughing at us. They're laughing at us now. They're just laughing at us like you would laugh at children who believe in Santa Claus, right? They're just laughing at us. It's shitty. It's just petty. It's just petty and tiny. And yeah, you won. God, you won. And you're going to enjoy your victory. You just crapped all over human civilization. You're going to celebrate this. Anyway, I'm going to try and stay on topic here, okay? So this guy writes, the overshoot myth, and he's talking about temperature overshoot. We're supposed to be, according to the Paris Climate Accords, 2014, we're supposed to be keeping the global average temperature increase below 1.5 degrees centigrade above an agreed, they never agreed, pre-industrial baseline, which keeps moving. And definitely absolutely drop dead important, don't cross 2.0. So the overshoot myth. You can't keep burning fossil fuels and expect scientists of the future to get us back to 1.5. And that's the shitty part. The IPCC and really even the Paris Climate Accords, they never said We were allowed to believe that's what they said, but they never said, and they never straightened us out. When we started saying something else, they were like, uh-huh, yeah, that's pretty close to what we said. You just keep thinking that. Okay. What they said was, according to the science and the data and the whatever, the Earth's temperature, the Earth's average temperature, the overshoot above a pre-industrial baseline is going to be something like 3 degrees C. When all is said and done, and we've made all our economic commitments, and we've floated all the boats, and we've burned all the fossil fuels, and we've done this, we've done that, then the temperature of the Earth will be somewhere above 3 degrees C, or maybe even 3.5 or 4. The models offer a range, and but what we are committing to is that in the future, in the future, the hand waving starts, right? In the future, with innovations and miracles or something, right? In the far future, scientists will find ways using magic or something, right? We don't even know. They will know. That's their job. In the future, scientists using magic or something will reduce the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. It goes up and up and up and up and up. And the Earth gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, because that's how that works. It goes up and up and up and up and up. And then they'll find some way to make it go down. And as they make it go down, the Earth will cool, you see? And eventually we'll reach a temperature, our target, in the future. In the future. Okay. Our target is 1.5 degrees C. We believe that that's survivable. But in the meantime, we're planning, looking forward to going over 1.5 and 2.0 and going to something else up here in the future somewhere. And then technology and magic and, blowing on your magic rabbit's foot. And then the CO2 comes down. We're doing something, technology. So what this guy is saying, I'll read the title again. The Overshoot Myth. Overshoot. Now we're all on the same page, right? What overshoot is, we're not going to stop at 1.5. We're not going to stop at 2. We're going to stop somewhere, and that's going to be overshoot. But then we're going to come back. You see? How? No one has any idea. And if they tell you they have an idea, oh, well, we have solutions. Name one. Engineer, scientist, physicist. Name one. Start. I'm listening. All ears. Name one. How's that supposed to work? Where's the energy come from? Where's the technology come from? You're talking about using nuclear fusion or something? What are you talking about? Okay? Name one. Trust me, if they had one, if they had a way to do this, they would be shouting it from the mountaintops right now, because that was their desperate gamble. That in the future, they would come up with a way to do this, to bring us back to survivability. And on the day when they have that figured out, trust me, the fossil fuel energies, the companies, the energy sector companies, they will be on the highest mountain shouting through a megaphone that they have the solution, that they figured it out. They said they would figure it out, and they promised they would, and they would save the world after the fact. But now they have it, and they're going to do it. They're going to implement it. We have the implementation plan. We know who's going to pay for it. We know we have all the technology. It's all lined up. It's all been tested. It all works. Everything works. We've done all these tests. We have the technology and the energy to run the technology. We have everything figured out, and now we're on the top of the mountain with a bullhorn crowing about our success. Trust me. When they figured this out, now I don't mean in some Reddit blog someplace. When they have this figured out, they will be on the mountaintops, crowing it from the summits. And until you hear that, they got nothing. Okay, they got nothing. And right now, I can tell you, they got nothing. The Overshoot Myth. You can't keep burning fossil fuels and expect scientists of the future to get us back to 1.5 degrees C. That's it. You can stop right there. In fact, that title was probably a conversation someone, 2 or 3 people had in a bar. A bunch of physicists and scientists sitting around drinking beer because they're depressed, right? And they're drinking beer. And someone says this, and someone says that, and someone says we're going to overshoot. And someone says, well, yeah, maybe we can fix that. And then someone pops up and said, You can't keep burning fossil fuels and expect scientists of the future to get us back to 1.5. And the rest of them just kind of sat around, scratched their heads, and sipped their beer and said, "Yeah, that's right. We can't really have that expectation." So they wrote this whole article. I'm not going to read the article. All right, I'm not going to read the article. I was prepared to be disappointed. I mean, that right there is actually, you can't keep burning fossil fuels and expect scientists of the future to get us back to 1.5 C. That right there, that's really provocative. You don't hear this in the mainstream media, period. You don't hear this in the IPCC reports, period. You just don't. This is a bunch of people who have now seen that process completely fail, and they're seeing what's happening in the environment, and they're watching that the consumption of fossil fuels is actually on an annual basis. It's increasing. It just keeps going up. And they're saying, look, I don't know what you people are doing, but you can't keep burning fossil fuels and expect scientists of the future to get us back to 1.5 C. That's not the title of an article. That's a statement of fact that happens to be the title of an article. So he goes into his article and he has all these discussions. And I thought it was pretty good, actually. I thought, well, this is on my bullshit meter. This is needling pretty low. He's laying it out. He's stating it clearly. Well, he's a university professor at Exeter. I mean, these are not oil industry shills, right? So he's just laying it out. Oh, and by the way, the oil industry knows all this stuff. If you could get their physicists and chemists, and you could get their global climate change scientists in a room and give them some beer and get them greased up and get them talking, they would probably say this exact same thing. They're just men and women, right? They know what's going on. And if you get enough booze in them, they'll say, look, man, I don't know what the fossil fuel industry has been telling you, but they're feeding you a line of baloney. You can't keep burning fossil fuels and expect scientists of the future to get us back to 1.5 degrees C. Another round on me. Another round on my boss, the fossil fuel industry, okay? Yeah, they would say it because it's true. They're not saying it because they're hippies and they're trying to make a point or something, or trying to win an argument on Reddit. They're saying it because it's true. And just because the IPCC report had this expectation that, yeah, okay, we're going to shoot through 1.5 and we're going to shoot through 2. These are aspirational goals, but they're aspirational goals after we come back down on the other side. So the key takeaway is here at the end, he offers 4 solutions, as he calls them. I would just want to say something quick about solutions, why I'm always putting it in air quotes. It's very, very important that people understand at this point, given the complexity of the Earth system and the degree to which we have disturbed it, and the degree to which that by itself causes additional disturbances, and the degree to which we can't stop disturbing it. We're on a glide path, just keep doing what we're doing. And to the degree to which, if we did decide to stop disturbing the Earth system, it's just going to continue to disturb itself. These are called aggravating feedbacks. To the degree that all that is true, this idea of having solutions, I have to put it in air quotes, solutions. I mean, you can use that word in a sentence. Oh, well, we'll just come up with solutions to the problem. Yeah, solutions is what you're trying to say, because you don't even know what those are. And furthermore, there might not be any. That's why this is called a wicked problem. Wicked problems admit of no solution. Well, that doesn't comport with democracy and freedom. Yeah, it does, because it's fucking physics, okay? It has nothing to do with your isms. Your capitalism and your consumerism and all this kind of shit, and all your inventions and all your inventiveness, and you just keep inventing yourself deeper into a hole, because almost every invention you come up with requires more fossil fuels. And no, this is a problem that quite likely and almost certainly does not have a solution. And he has 4 solutions at the end of his article, and I don't really care about the other 3 for the most part. But one of them is you have to stop burning fossil fuels. I just want you to understand right up front. Yes, you have to stop burning fossil fuels. Yes. But not because it's a solution, because it's not. This Titanic has already hit that iceberg. And as we know now from history, there was no solution. And you can pump and you can bail and you can lower the lifeboats and you can do this and you can pray to God and you can have another drink and you can play dice and you can do all these things on the Titanic. And the deck is tilting and this furniture is going across the floor under gravity. And it's, and there's no solution. And you can say, but there must be a solution. But there isn't. And we know the Titanic sank. There was no solution. Everybody on the ship was working on the solution that you thought was there, and there wasn't one. It's just going down. That's what happened. Well, there must have been a solution. They must have innovated. They must have. No, it sank. Go look it up. The Titanic sank. There are problems that have no solution. And by the way, a lot of the problems that have no solution are problems that are bound up and wound up in physics. I mean, you can have economic problems that have a solution. You could just redistribute the money. Hey, you could print more money. Just hand out money to people. There, got money, go spend it. Okay. And you can call that a solution because it's something you can do, because economics is made up and religion is made up and politics is made up. These are constructs. And since we created them, we can solve them. All the problems in economics are problems we created, and we can solve them using other forms of economics, right? If your problem is you don't have enough money, print more money. If your problem is you don't have enough food, distribute the food differently. And so long as your problem can be coerced through politics and economics, because that's where it's based, right? Even food scarcity is just politics. There's food rotting away in grain silos in the Midwest that could have been shipped to Africa to feed people. But then that creates another problem. Of course, then those people will need more food the next time they get hungry. And you just emptied your silos full of rotting grain. And now what are you going to feed them? So I don't know. Maybe you can't solve that pollution, that problem either. But there is a set of problems that are resident in physics. There's a set of problems we are having right now that reside in Earth system dynamics, which is physics. There is a set of problems we are confronting right now that reside entirely within the boundaries of physics, gravity, thermodynamics, ideal gas law, physics. They are not responsive. They take no notice of any kind of your politics and your economics and your religion. Physics doesn't care. Physics existed before these things were invented by us. And when you have a problem in the physical world, this idea of, oh, well, there must be a solution. You put that solution in quotes. There must be a solution of some kind, right? Who says? There was no solution for the Titanic. And if the wings fall off your airplane at 35,000 feet, there's no solution. Well, we could all have parachutes. We could jump out. That's what they thought when the Titanic was thinking. We'll all have a lifeboat. That'll be the solution. No, you didn't. Because they didn't think it would sink. And they didn't bother with the lifeboats. And a few people got lifeboats because they were on there for looks mostly. And so some people floated away on a lifeboat. Most people didn't. And most of the lifeboats actually went down with the ship. This idea that there's going to be a solution is just the story we tell ourselves. And with regards to climate change, because it's grounded and bounded in physics, this idea that you're going to solve this is immediately suspicious. Solve it how? What equation in the descriptive of physics are you going to turn off? Are you going to turn off the ideal gas law? Are you going to turn off the greenhouse effect? Are you going to turn off atmospheric composition? Are you going to turn off insulation? Or what are you going to do? You're going to make the atmosphere deeper? What are you talking about? For fuck's sake, what are you going to solve? It's in physics. You fucked up with physics. You dug yourself into a hole, and now you're trapped in your hole, and it's a physical hole, and you're at the bottom. It's a hole that you dug, and you're at the bottom. What are you going to do? Well, of course, the recommendation when you've dug yourself into a deep hole, you do what? What do you do? Let's hear it all. Let's all say it together. You stop digging, right? Now, that's not a solution. You're at the bottom of a hole, but you've had the wisdom that you're not going to keep digging. It doesn't solve your problem of being at the bottom of a hole, does it? Your solution to being at the bottom of a hole in the ground is that you stop digging. That's the smart thing to do. Yeah, you stop digging. That good on you, Sparky. You're going to stop digging. Smart, real smart. You're still at the bottom of a hole. Allow me to point out, and I'm not being mean. I'm just telling you that you're standing on the bottom of a hole that you dug. So he has his solutions to our physical problem of physics. In a physical world, he has his solutions, so-called. But the first one, and I was really pleased to see this. And as far as I was concerned, I wasn't even interested in the other three. I hardly listened. The first solution is to stop burning fossil fuels and leave them in the ground. Wow. Okay. Full points. 10 out of 10. I don't even need to know what the other three are. 10 out of 10. Stop burning fossil fuels with immediate effect and leave them in the ground. That constitutes, yes, stop digging. You're in a hole. You realize you're in a hole. You're looking up. You can't get out of the hole. You're wondering how you're going to get out of the hole. You're deep in this hole and you got a shovel in your hand. You're wondering, well, at the very least, I'm going to stop digging. Full points. 10 out of 10. Full points. Deserved. Brilliant. I mean, it's obvious. It's not brilliant, of course. It's obvious. Stop digging. But, I've been reading articles and following articles and listening to scientists and listening to pundits and reviewing the IPCC reports. And I hardly ever hear, almost never. I mean, never, really never. This is the first time, this article by this guy in the UK. First time I've ever seen anybody just come out and say, stop burning fossil fuels with immediate effect and leave them in the ground. As clear as that. Sometimes they'll start saying that and then they'll put caveats on. And I'm like, that was close. You almost did it. Okay, like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. You tried. Oh, I will recognize that you tried to say the right thing. And then you piled on all these caveats about social justice and floating all the boats. And we have to make this fair and equitable. It's like, okay, fine. But you got close. But this guy didn't do that. He came out and he said, first solution. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stop burning fossil fuels and we're going to leave them in the ground. That sounds like two solutions, but that's really one solution because you have to do both. To really stop burning fossil fuels, you have to stop pulling them out of the ground. Because as soon as you pull them out of the ground, they become part of the Earth dynamic system out of the ground. And now you got a problem. So he said that. And then he went on to talk about some other things. And one of the things that got mentioned, and I should probably read the article, but I'm lazy. So was that we need a transition. We need a transition because if we stop burning fossil fuels, food is going to get real expensive, energy is going to get real expensive, and we need a transition so that people don't fall into poverty. And he's talking about poverty, which is economics. Poverty is an artificial construct. We have so much abundance in the world right now because we burn fossil fuels. Let's just admit it. Well, we have so much abundance in the world right now. There's really no reason for anybody to be living in poverty. And remember, poverty is a construct. Poverty is, I give you a coin. I don't give you the means of production. I took that away. But I give you a coin, and that coin will allow you to purchase the outcome, the benefits of the means of production. Oh, but look, I didn't give you a big enough coin. So actually, because I gave you a coin this size, but you need a coin over here to make the purchase that's 5 times that size. Actually, you can't participate, but that's your fault because I gave you a coin, and your fault is you're poor. Which is another construct, right? I could have given you 5 coins, and then you could have gone over there and bought the thing that requires 5 coins, but I don't. I give you 1 coin for your job cleaning toilets or cooking food for rich people or driving a cab or whatever your job is, right? Coding, right? I was a coder. I'll give you 1 coin, but then the price for everything is 5 coins. So your problem isn't my problem. because I gave you a coin. Your problem is your problem. And your problem is that you're poor. You're poor. You see how this works? You're poor. The problem isn't that you don't have enough coins, because I gave you a coin and I gave you a way to use your coins to buy the things you need to survive. Your problem is you're poor. How's it feel to be poor? Don't stand so close. I might get some poor on me. Stand over there so I can watch you being poor. Of course, I have a pocket full of coins. I could just give you more coins. Hey, you're poor? Oh, damn it. Okay, I didn't understand. All right, here, let me get some more coins out. Here's more coins for you. Okay, now you're not poor. Problem solved, because I created the problem in the first place with inventing economics and coins and coinage and exchange rates. I invented all that shit. That's all invented. You think all that shit is real? That is not real. That's all invented. That's humans. And they also decide how many coins you're going to get for whatever it is you do, and it's never enough. But that's not their problem. I mean, it is their problem. They created this system, but the problem becomes your problem. And your problem is, according to their definitions and how they set everything up and how many coins they give you, how many coins it takes to buy things and survive and all this stuff. Now they can come along and say, the problem is not me, and the problem is not the markets, and the problem is not the coinage, and the problem is not the banks, and the problem is not the food supply, and the problem is not inflation, and the problem is not anything else. The problem is you. You're the problem. Because for some reason, bad planning, bad life choices, you decided to be poor. And if you think that's not what they're doing, think again. It's exactly what they're doing. So he comes along and he says, all right, we're going to stop burning fossil fuels with immediate effect. All right, that's going to suck. Immediate effects that we're going to expect from that are, it becomes harder to grow food, so it becomes more expensive. It's harder to cut lumber and distribute things, so materials become more expensive. It's harder to generate electricity without fossil fuels. I mean, most of our electricity still comes from coal, oil, and natural gas. So it becomes harder to generate electricity, so electricity gets more expensive. So the problem is everybody gets relatively poor because they still got the same amount of coin coming in, and the price of everything is going up because we don't have the availability of fossil fuels to make everything cheap. So now your coin doesn't match up with your expenses, and you are poor. How did that happen? When did you decide to become poor? That was dumb. I mean, if you'd asked me, I would have told you, well, don't be poor. So he's saying, and because we're going to set us up for another set of problems, we need to create this thing called UBI, Universal Basic Income. And then UBI has been floating around for, I don't know, 5-10 years now. We actually had a presidential candidate, Andrew Yang, who ran, I don't know, 2016, I think it was, on the platform. He was more of a single issue candidate. He just wanted to get the issue out there. I think he's a rich guy. And he ran on the issue of, we need UBI in the United States of America. Well, we probably needed UBI since the 80s, right? Where there's so many corporations making so much money and they have all these profits. And of course, profits are democracy, right? And they have all this money and they get rich and rich and rich and rich and rich. And then everyone else gets poor and poor and poor because it's just relative, right? And you give one person one coin, but they need 2 to buy bread. And now they need 3, and now they need 4, and they have to work all harder. Now the wife is working and the husband, and that helps them for a little while, but they just keep raising the price. Ooh, 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 look. Oh no, you're poor again. How'd that happen? What'd you do wrong? You're poor again. Oh my God, you're so stupid. Look, everyone in your family's working at shitty jobs, and look what happened. Somehow you screwed up because now you're poor again. You're poor. You're poor. Wow, how does it feel? Yeah, but stand further away when you tell me, okay? Because I don't want to get poor cooties on me. How does it feel to be poor? You only raised the price a little more. Now you're even poorer than you were before. You feel better? You feel worse? How worse? How many? Give me a number on line 1 to 10. Are you on a 9? Are you 9 worse for being more poor? So I could raise it more. I could raise the prices of things more. Okay, let's jack it up. Are you at 10 yet? Are you 10 out of 10 for poor? Because let me know. Because when you're knocking on death's door and you got 1 foot in the grave because one month you can buy food, the next month you can pay your mortgage, but you can't ever do both, right? So let me know when I can't jack it up anymore, and then I'll stop, and or I could give you more coins, but I'm not going to do that. That's well, that's socialism. That's communism. That's communism. So, and UBI, universal basic income. My God, that's like the Soviet Union, right? Didn't they have that in the Soviet Union? I think they did. No, they didn't. But didn't they have that in the Soviet Union? My God, we're not going to do that. What, you're going to tax corporations to fund UBI? Are you even kidding me? That is so socialist. That is so contrary to democracy and freedom. And where's my AR-15 and MAGA and Gadsden flag? We can't have this. Okay? So he's talking about UBI, that we need to make sure that when we stop burning fossil fuels, that when the price of things start to go up, because it took fossil fuels to make them cheap anyway. Oh, and by the way, just an increase in the cost of fossil fuels can cause the increase of goods and supplies and services, because it's, they're tied together. We make everything with fossil fuels. And if the price of fossil fuels goes up, like oil or gas or whatever, then that cost gets fed back into the price of goods and services. So that's why everything's so expensive. One of the reasons, probably the main reason, is just they're setting the prices, and they want to make sure the prices are enough that you never feel comfortable. Well, that's a conspiracy. You're conspiratorial thinking. No, I'm not. I'm not the only one. Lots of economists will tell you, oh, yeah, that's exactly how they do it. Oh, look at the Fed rate, right? The Federal Reserve Bank of the U.S. They're carefully monitoring the interest rate. They're trying to match income and lending to the prices of goods. That's what they do that all the time. What do you think they're trying to do? They're adjusting inflation. And sometimes they adjust it up and sometimes they adjust it down. They're adjusting inflation. What does that sound like to you? The price of things. They're adjusting the price of things. And the inflation is never zero. Inflation is never zero. They could do zero, by the way, but they don't want to do zero. They want to do above zero. So the price of things is always increasing. This has been going on for centuries. The price of things is always increasing. This has been going on for centuries. And that's how they win. And they're the ones that created poverty. And they're not going to solve it with UBI, but I got a bigger problem with UBI. UBI just keeps you in this system of, they give you a coin, and then you very quickly run down to the market to buy the thing you need to buy to have food, clothing, and shelter, right? Before the price goes up and you can't afford it anymore. And so you're always focused on a coin, whether it's coming from your shitty job or the government. It doesn't matter. They're keeping you focused, laser focused, okay, on the coin. Where's my coin? Do I have a coin? How many coins do I have? Can I buy any food with my coin? Can I buy food and pay the rent with my coins? And you're just focused. You're focused, laser focused. Coin, 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 coin. Money, 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 money. Income, job, 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 job. Because it's a desperate dance. For most Americans, it's desperation, and the middle class is vanishing because they're being pushed further down into the, what do we call it again? Poverty, right? Which is just a concept. So the guy's saying, look, let's just give everybody money. Okay, but that keeps you focusing on money. You don't need UBI. Here's what you need. Here's what you actually need. And this is, and I can say these words as a scientist and a physicist. I can say these words knowing full well that you need food, water, electricity, air conditioning, shelter. Okay, you need safety and security. You need hospitalization. You need schools for your children, or at least education, right? These are the things you need. You don't need money. You use money to secure those things for yourself, but you don't need the money. You need the things. And that's what no one can understand now. Because when you go to the market, they don't give you the food. You got to have the coin. They've made that system. That they created that. That didn't used to be the case. What used to be the case? You didn't go to the supermarket to get your food. You went to the forest. You went to the wetlands, and you took a fishing line or a net and you caught the fish. And then you went hunting with a bow and an arrow, and you brought back the meat. And you had soil and irrigation water and seeds, and you tilled the ground and you planted the seeds and you let the plants come up and you tended the plants and you got the crop and the fruits of the trees and the nuts and everything else. And did I mention any coins? Did I mention your job? No, of course not. You didn't have a job. The whole idea of having a job is like, why would I want a job? Excuse me, I have to go tend my crop, right? That's what you were doing. I don't need a job. What are you talking about, job? And even worshiping gods and all this stuff. People didn't do that. They didn't have time. Of course, most people didn't live past the age of 35 or 40, but that was their actual expectation, so they didn't care. Everybody died at 40. Half your children died in infancy. That was just life. And you got up every day and you went into life and you hoped for the best. And when bad things happened, that's life too, because that's how you live and that's how you're born and that's how you die and that's how we help each other and that's how we do things. And you didn't have a job. You had labor. And if you're lucky, well, then you get lucky. Your arrow lands true and the crops do come up and the locusts don't come and eat them all. And this is all just things we don't understand. Why did the arrow land where it needed to? Why did it instead bounce off of a limb and left me hungry? Okay, whatever, the gods, the spirits, luck, right? And they didn't think about it. They didn't question it. They were like, well, I'll work on my skills. I'll make lots of arrows. I'll work the land. I'll make it as fertile as possible, and I'll maintain my seeds, and I won't eat them all. And I'll plant the seeds, and I'll pull the weeds, and I'll make sure the locusts don't come and eat the things. I'll keep the deer out of my pasture, my crops, and I'll keep the wolves out of my sheep, and I'll do the best I can. And then we keep it together. And we have children and we marry and we bury our elders and we just keep going on and there's no jobs. There's just labor with some luck. And UBI is not going to save you. Universal basic income or any other monetary giveaway, it's just keeping you in this system where you can't survive anymore. You're just focused on the money. Money. Oh my God, money. Okay. Because from experience and from the wisdom of others that if you don't have enough money, you can't go out and buy the food and the clothing and the shelter and the electricity and the internet and the phone and the car and the gasoline for the car and all the things you need to keep your shit together. Money. But that's a completely contingent fact of history. They made all that up. They invented all that. That's all an invention of the human mind. That's our fever dream. Money. Here's what you need. This is going to sound like a throwback, but it's not. Here's what you need. What do you need? You need food, water, clothing, shelter. And for modern life, which we like, don't need it, want it, you need electricity, sewer treatment, water delivery. I mean, you could have a well, but I like water delivery, pipes, tap water, right? Hot and cold running water. Water delivery, security, hospitalization, medications. Okay, maybe you don't need hospitals, but you do want medication, right? Medication, modern education, right? Access to information. These are things you want. And I'd like to keep them. I'm sure you would too. These are all the inventions, and they're real inventions. They're physical things. Penicillin, for when you get an infection, is a real thing. And your infection is a real thing. So treat it with a real thing. I mean, you can pray over it, and laying on of hands and, an herbal poultice and, rub a lucky stone on the wound and, maybe you'll get better, maybe you won't. Or you can just take a shot of penicillin for that shit, right? And wow, I'm all better because it's a physical thing. An infection is a physical thing and penicillin is a physical thing. And physical things come from physical things. And, do you want physical things? Well, then make sure you have physical things. Electricity is practically a physical thing. You want electricity? You have to make it. You have to manufacture it. You need generators, and then you need wires to transmit it. And even if you have solar panels on your house, that's a solar panel. Where'd that come from? That's a physical thing. Do you have the inverters? Do you have the charge controllers? Do you have the battery array? Do you have all the stuff? Do you have and then do you have outlets in your house? And do you have appliances that use electricity? That's all physical shit. Do you want that? Well, you may have it now. Can you keep it? What if it breaks? Can you go get another one? This is all physical stuff. And we can figure that out. We can figure that out. And just giving you money when we are also giving up on fossil fuels doesn't solve your physical problem, because the solar panels are made with fossil fuels, not money. And the appliances are made with fossil fuels, not money. And the water delivery requires fossil fuels, not money. Water delivery is a physical thing. There's a reservoir and it has a dam that needs maintenance, and there's a pipeline, and there's pumps all along the way, and they all run on electricity generated by fossil fuels. And then there's a treatment plant with all these expensive filters that they have to replace every week. And it goes through the filters and it goes into local pipelines. It's delivered down the street in the pipeline to your house. And then there's a water meter, and then there's a line to your house, and there's all this plumbing in your house. And then there's a tap, and the faucets have to work. And then, and there's a toilet, and there's a sink, and there's a shower, and it's all physical. It's all physical. It's all made with fossil fuels. It's all physical shit. It's not made with money. It's not made with coins and pieces of paper that someone prints the president's face on and hands out to everybody. That's not where the sink comes from. That's not where the shower comes from. That's not where the water comes from. It doesn't come from money. It's physical. It comes from the physical world. It's manufactured. Do you want that? Well, giving you money isn't going to make sure you have that. You have to have a project. You have to have a program to make this shit. And then whether you buy it with coin or just give it away, it doesn't matter at that point. Well, that's the wrong ism. We need capitalism. We need freedomism. We need democracyism. No, you need physical shit. You need water. You need electricity. You need appliances. You need a sink and a toilet and sewer treatment. Physical shit. You don't need money. You need to make sure shit works. Do you have it? And of course, the basis of all that is, do you have food? Do you have clothing? Do you have water? Do you have some shelter to keep yourself alive? And then, do you have community? Do you have people you can fall back on? Does your community have a community? Do you have any narrative about how you're going to survive this? Because giving you money isn't going to cut it. Just giving you UBI doesn't solve the problem. Because if the shelves are empty at Whole Foods, and that's where you're going to go take your UBI, your free money, to buy your free food and bring it back here and eat it, and the shelves are empty, then you suddenly realize that you got a different problem. You thought your problem was, oh my God, everything's so expensive. Oh my God, I lost my job because of fossil fuels. Oh my God, it's so terrible. And now I don't have any money. Oh wait, they gave me money. Okay, great. Now I'm going to go down to Whole Foods and buy my food. And it's like, you can't afford it, or there's none on the shelf. It's like, oh, well, this money doesn't do me much good right now, does it? Well, I'll keep the money. I'll go shop someplace else. What if they don't have any food? What happened to the food? Where'd the food go? The food is a physical thing. You don't just make it out of money. Someone has to grow the food. Someone has to process the food. Someone has to deliver the food. It's all physical. It's all real. It's not economics. It's not money. It's not monetary policy. It's not interest rates. It's not inflation. It's not any of those things. That's all made up. That's all bullshit. It's all just monkey business. It's just chimps chimping out over bananas. The banana is real. And everything else you think about money isn't. You don't need UBI. You need land. You need seed. You need water. You need the knowledge of how to grow food, which you don't have. You could acquire it. I'm not saying you couldn't. I'm saying right now you don't have it. You don't. So you need land, which you don't have. Not if you live in an urban area. It's all asphalt and concrete. Even your backyard is probably concrete. Your front yard certainly is. You need land. You need seed. You need water. You need the knowledge of how to combine all those things to get food. You need to know what to do with the food. You need some way to store it, because you're not going to just eat the food as soon as it comes off the ground. Hopefully, you're growing enough that, yes, you can feed yourself today, but you're growing enough that there's a little bit of a surplus for when the crops are gone. And you need the knowledge, which you don't currently have, that food is seasonal. You didn't know that. I just told you that. You didn't know that before. There are growing seasons, and there's times when you don't grow. And the people in olden times, meaning 200 years ago, knew that you got your harvest and it was more than you could eat, and you set it aside in storage, silos or whatever. And then you have food for later. And if you ran out of food before the next harvest, you went hungry. So you tried to manage your stored food. And hopefully, by the time that food starts to run out, you get another harvest. And hopefully it's big enough to feed you now, but also to you know refill your surplus. And so that's how people used to do it, like 150 years ago. You don't know that. You don't know anything about that because your food comes from the market. And if I gave you land and water and seed and tools and the knowledge of how to combine those, you would still have to learn about storage, food preservation, how to deal with losses to rats and mice, and the importance of cats and dogs, okay, and helping you manage that. These are things you never think about. You never think about these things. And so the guy that says, well, the problem with we stop burning fossil fuels is the price of everything goes up because it's all made with fossil fuels. So now, now you got a problem. Availability becomes a challenge. And when availability is a challenge, well, then the price goes up, right? What do they call it? Availability and demand, right? When the availability is low and the demand is high, or the demand goes up, then the price goes up. That's market forces for you. So, but fair enough. So UBI isn't going to save you. It'll make you think you're going to be saved, but it won't. Universal basic income just keeps you in the mindset that someone is going to solve the physical problems, and you're going to take your coin, okay, and you're going to purchase the things you need. But in the future, without fossil fuels, because that is the premise of this entire discussion, we are going to stop burning fossil fuels and leave them in the ground. That's the whole premise here, okay? Given that premise, then who is growing the food? How is it getting where you are? And how do you get your hands on it? That's the next shoe to drop, right? And you don't need money. And you don't need an economic system. We've been doing this for tens of thousands of years. We didn't have economics until some jerk came along and convinced us we need economics because he wanted us to have that. Why? I don't know. He felt important. Seemed like a good idea at the time. What you need is food, water, seeds, shelter, community, knowledge, all your hands and fingers and legs, and so you can work the soil. And maybe you need domesticated animals, and maybe you need certain level of technology like the mortarboard plow or something like that, right? Harness for your horse, saddles, right? Bridle. Yeah, basic technology. Stuff that a blacksmith could make 800 years ago. All they had was iron. But maybe you need light industries. Do you have iron ore in your community? You probably have something. Can you get it out of the ground? Do you know where it is? Can you locate it? Do you have the tools to dig it up? Now, do you have a smelter? Can you deal with? Can you get the iron out of the iron ore? And is it hot enough? And what are you going to burn to make it to produce that heat? Are you going to burn trees? Do you have trees? Are you going to burn all your trees down just getting at the iron? Oh, wait, we have recycled iron. Okay, that's good. So you go to the landfill. You dig up the landfill, you pull all the iron out that people threw away, every little nail and thimble and everything else. And you bring it back to your blacksmith, and he melts it all down somehow, and he can make things. All right, blacksmith can make things. He's out there with the hammer on the anvil, bang, 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 making things. They used to make nails by hand. They're square nails. They make them with a hammer. Banging out nails all day. Takes him all day to make a bucket of nails. In fact, the blacksmith doesn't do that. He's got an apprentice over here. Some little guy is trying to learn the craft, and he's just banging on nails all day, making buckets of nails. And when you tore down a house, a building, you didn't care about the wood probably much because the wood was rotten, but you cared about the nails. You saved every nail. You pulled all the nails out because those are going to be expensive, and it takes a long time to make them. And you need fresh iron to do it. So you just catch all the nails. You put them in a bucket. And that's why you tore the building down. You wanted the nails. You didn't care about the wood or the building or anything else. You wanted the nails. It's full of nails. I'm either going to find some nails or I'm going to have a blacksmith make the nails. It's going to take him a month and a half. It's going to cost me a fortune. But I got this barn, and it's old, and it's leaning, and it's falling down, and it's rotted, and the termites are all in it. And it's ugly, and I can't even use it anymore, but it's full of nails. So guess what we're doing today, kids? We're tearing this barn down and pulling all the nails out of it. Here's a bucket. I want this bucket full of nails by the end of the day. You didn't even know that. I know that because I'm a country boy. You didn't know that. You didn't know that. That's what you do. when you don't have fossil fuels. That's what you do. That's how you do it. That's how you actually do it. I'm not making that up. That's how you do it. You don't have fossil fuels. And having money doesn't solve your problem. Well, it might solve your problem if you can find someone with a bucket of nails that they salvaged from an old building and you can give them your coin for their bucket of nails. But why would they give you a valuable thing like a bucket of nails for a stupid $100 bill? It's a piece of paper. All they can do with it is wipe their butt with it. Why would they give you a valuable bucket of iron nails for a piece of paper? Really? You think that's how this is going to work? They might give you a bucket of nails for a sheep. They might give you a bucket of nails for, a half of a pig, a slaughtered pig. They might give you a bucket of nails for, an old horse. Maybe they'll give you the bucket of nails for a horse. Or maybe they'll just say, no, there's nothing you got that's worth me giving you my bucket of nails. My bucket of nails. I'm going to build some shit with this bucket of nails. I got plans. I got big plans. In fact, I'm going to exchange half this bucket of nails for that guy over there who's got a pile of lumber that he salvaged from an old building, and it's good lumber. It's not rotted at all. And I'm going to exchange for him half this bucket of nails. And I'm going to take half of his wood, and he's going to use the other half of that wood with the half a bucket of nails that I gave him to build the thing he wants to build. And I'm going to take half of his wood with the remainder of the nails in my bucket, and I'm going to build the thing that I want to build. And in the end, I got good use out of my bucket of nails, and he got good use out of his pile of lumber. And he has a new building. Maybe it's even shelter. Maybe it's a barn for his animals. Maybe it's a room for his children. And I've got my new building, and maybe it's the same thing. And he got his and I got mine because he had the wood and I had the nails. And where'd those come from? The physical world. I saved the nails from my old buildings, and he saved the lumber. He made the lumber with a saw from a tree he cut down. And these are physical things. And I give him mine, and he gives me his, and we build our things, and we come together at the end, and we look at each other's work, and we pat each other on the back. Good job. Good job. You're a good neighbor. You shared your nails with me, and you shared your lumber. And that was smart of you to keep that lumber. And it's smart of you to keep those nails. Well, I wish I had nails like that. And you pat each other on the back, and you shake hands, and you go home to your respective successes. Because you don't need money, and you don't need UBI. You need to be smart. You need good neighbors. You need intelligent people who recognize the value of physical things, right? Like recycled metal, recycled wood, reusable furniture, repairable furniture, right? Glue, for fuck's sake. Nails. And also land, water, seed, plows, oxen, horses, bridles, saddles, horseshoes, animal feed, harvest, food preservation, storage, cats to catch and kill the mice and rats. It's crazy talk. Crazy talk. Why would anyone talk like this? It's bullshit. Who is this guy? The Unabomber? I mean, it's crazy. It's nuts. I just want the money. Just tell me how I get the money. Now, we have 8,000 million people on this planet. 8,000 million. That's 8 billion. We have 8,000 million people. This planet, as it stands now, with the levels of harm we have done to the soil and the water and the plants and the natural habitat and the natural animals, including the pollinators, given the harm that we have caused on this planet, and you'd have to be a biologist or a wildlife biologist or an agronomist to actually know what the damage is. But there's science on the damage. We've done a lot of damage. This planet, back in the day, like the year 1400, 1500, maybe had 300 million humans on it, and the planet was basically empty, and the forests were pristine, and no one had drained the swamps, and no one had polluted the water, and the deer were abundant, and the bison were abundant, and the natural systems were going gangbusters, and they were supporting all these humans. But that was the year 1600, 1400 maybe, okay? And but now, fast forward, what is it? 400, 500 years, fast forward, and the planet doesn't look anything like that. I live in the Santa Clara Valley, and they used to call this the Valley of Heart's Delight. And this was part of the mission system. And there was a road. It still has a name. What is it called? the Monterey Highway or something, and you can still find parts of it. They put little plaques on it to say this is the historic road, and that was the road. There was one road, and it went up, came down from wherever, went up from there, and it went to San Francisco, and that's where the main mission was. And they didn't have enough land in San Francisco, so they got their food from down here. And there were orchards, and there were fields, and there was abundant irrigation, and they had, all these laborers, mostly slaves, working in the fields, and they had oxen, and they had plows, and they had, wagons and horses, and they grew food, and they sent it all up to the mission in San Francisco. And this was called the Valley of Heart's Delight. And the soil is like 50 feet deep, and it just centuries of grasslands and wetlands, and it's just rich in organic material, and it's silty, and the roots just dive down into the soil, and the plants just love it. They just grow like crazy. And you could grow anything you wanted here. And they had orchards, and they had fields, and they had crazy things. And they took it all, San Francisco, and those people ate it. And they used the highway, the little donkey trail, and now it's been paved, and now it's 8 lanes each way, and all this kind of stuff has happened. But now you come to the Santa Clara Valley and you look at it from space, it's just this gray scab, just gray, not brown, not green, not blue, gray. It's gray from the hills all the way across to the hills, all the way to the bay. It's just gray. You know what that is? That's a combination of asphalt, concrete, and rooftops. It's gray, like a scab, like a scar. It's gray. And I've done this many times, when you're coming home on the highway, the freeway, there's a spot where it's up in the hill still, and you're about to descend down into the valley, but you're still up on the hill, and the trees clear out, and you're not in the road cut anymore, and you're high enough that you can see out across the Santa Clara Valley. And at night, it's just solid lights. And in the daytime, it's just solid concrete with a level of brown, stinking haze just above it. It's just all concrete. It's gray. It's gray. And somewhere below all this grayness is 150 feet of prime agricultural land. 150 feet deep of prime agricultural land, left over from when this area was under 250 feet of sea. And the silt was washing down from the mountains and filling in. And then the sea disappeared because of the ice ages. And the silt, the buildup, was left over. And it's all rich in all these minerals and all this plant life and all these grasses that laid down over the centuries. And it's just 100 feet deep. And, we get enough rain and enough fog here that there's always water. At least there would have been, except in the dead of the summer. So, there's a growing season. It's probably split, some part of it in the fall, some part of it in the spring. But you would know all this. You've lived here and you know all this. Then you know what to do. And you know that your vineyards and your orchards will put down roots, and they'll find that water down there. So your surface crops are maybe seasonal, but your orchards and your vineyards are perennials. They grow all the time, and they're sending their roots down to find the water. So you kind of balance the two, and you could grow anything you wanted here. And then they came in later in the early 1900s, and they built big canneries here where I live in the Midtown San Jose. You can still find the foundations of the canneries. They're still there. I guess someone will come along later and pull up those foundations and build apartment complexes. But you can still find the foundations of the old canneries. And they would can up the food, the fruit cocktail and the peaches and the pears. They can all this stuff up, and they send it all over the countryside from the Santa Clara Valley. And for a while, when you look down on the Santa Clara Valley from the hills up here, it was all green for a time, right? It was all green. It was all orchards and fields and irrigation and all this kind of stuff. And there'd be a house here and a factory there and a blacksmith and a couple of other things. And there's not much, right? It's just mostly growing. It's all green. And now it's all gray. It's gray. And that, if you look down from space, or you look down from the hillside up here as you're coming into town on your 8-lane freeway, right? You look down on it and it's gray. You see this big gray scar, this impermeable scar on the land. And it is rooftops, asphalt, roads and parking lots, and concrete. So in theory, you could live here and you could figure out your land, water, seed, food preparation, food storage. You could kind of figure all that out. And there was a time when you could just be right here and you'd have enough land, deep enough with enough water and enough cool temperatures because the climate here is pretty temperate and predictable. So you'd have the right growing conditions, the right soil, enough water, and you could tell yourself a story. You could tell yourself a story about how you're going to plant this and you're going to plant it in this season. You're going to harvest it, and you'll have excess harvest because the land is really good, and you'll work hard at it, and you'll have food to eat. What will you have? Beans, dried fruits, preserved meats. Chickens lay eggs all year round, and you could always have a chicken if you want one. And you got the story about how you're going to survive. No money involved, really, not really. In more modern times, like the turn of the last century, the 1900, maybe 1800, you'd want some coin to buy some things that you can't really provide for yourself. So what is that? Sugar, ground flour, cloth for making clothing, needles and threads, right? These are things you couldn't, although Stone Age people could make their own needles and they could make their own threads sufficient from animal connective tissue and connective tissue in the skin. And they would use leather. And when they could, they would weave. If they had the right fibers available to them, flax and things like that, cotton, they would weave. And mostly women, but sometimes men. This is where we get the family name Weaver, right? They would process fibers from the environment, and they would make threads, and then they would weave the threads on a loom. It could be a tiny little loom. It's just something you have in your front of your house. You have a tiny little loom, and you just weave cloth off these threads, and then you have enough cloth. Finally, after you work on it for a couple of months or part of a year, you have enough cloth that you can start to cut that cloth and make clothing out of it. And maybe you make clothing for your children. And as the children outgrow the clothing, then you have to make then there's always an older kid that has clothing that the younger kid can wear. They're called hand-me-downs, and you darn them with the same thread that you make the cloth with. You darn the knees, you darn the elbows, you darn the socks. And maybe you slaughter an animal and you get some leather from that animal, and maybe you know how to cure the leather, how to tan the leather, and then you give the leather to a shoemaker, and that shoemaker will give you some shoes out of that leather and keep some of the rest of it to make other shoes to sell to people or to trade for other goods. And so you were always producing leather, you were always producing thread, fibers, cloth, and you just you have a needle. Either you buy a needle from someone who comes into town once in a while, they call a peddler, who will sell you iron steel needles that someone's making, or you make your own needles out of fish bone. Do or don't, right? It's your choice. So there was a time when all of this was feasible. It's not feasible now. It's not feasible now. And having universal basic income to kind of tide us over, okay, into a period where it becomes feasible again, and we don't need money to do the things, right? We just have all the knowledge and all the materials and all the seeds and all the land and all the water. It's all been figured out. We figured it out. Maybe it's generational change. Maybe it takes 100 years. Maybe it takes 50 years. Well, it can't take more than about 15 at this point. Okay, but we've managed to figure it out. And some of us have all the things we need to have crops and food storage and of course cats and all this kind of stuff. And so we got lucky, right? So how many people can do that at this point? I started off by saying at one point when people could do all those things, all those 1,000 things, there's 1,000 things. Well, people could do those 1,000 things for themselves or within their community or between their community and another in combination. Like, how many blacksmiths do you have to make nails? I don't know. Maybe there's a blacksmith the next town over, and that's good enough. By the time people figured out that we had maybe 200 million people on this planet, and the planet was clean, and the Santa Clara Valley wasn't a gray scab upon the landscape visible from space. Well, now that Santa Clara Valley is paved over, and it is a scab and a wound upon the earth, and it is but one of hundreds of thousands of similar wounds upon the earth, which, by the way, all used to be agricultural communities. So the horrible, terrible irony is the exact places where people used to know how to do shit have been paved over because that's where the people were. We didn't build our cities and our parking lots and our malls and our parking structures over there where there was no agriculture. We just lived here. We planted our crops. We raised our children. The blacksmith was there and the school was there. And we just lived here and we just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we laid asphalt. We laid concrete. And this made sense at the time. And we had shingle roofs and we had ornamental shrubs and we just buried the land where we were living. And now if you try to go find land where you could repeat the process from 500 years ago, it's all under asphalt and concrete because that's where the people used to be. And so they just paved it over right where they were standing, right where they were shitting, right where they were raising their kids. They just paved it over because they had money instead. And now the agriculture can be thousands of miles away because it's going to come on you with a truck and you're going to have money. You're going to have a coin. You're going to go out and you're going to put that coin down on the countertop and say, bring me some flour, bring me some sugar, bring me some cloth, bring me needles and thread. You're going to buy all this stuff, right? Because you have to now because you paved everything else over. And now without fossil fuels, you can't go to the market, put down your coin and get your needle and thread, put down your coin and get your half of beef. Now, without fossil fuels, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, you're not going to be 8,000 million people. You're not going to do that. You're going to do 100 million people. Not 8,000 million, 100 million. And now you understand why I call it 8,000 million and not a billion. Scale, bitches. Scale. 8,000 is a big number. 8,000 million is a big number. 100 million ain't nearly so big. 100 is nowhere near 8,000. If I gave you $100, you'd say, wow, thanks. That's $100. That's pretty good. If I gave you $8,000, you go, you just changed my life, pal. $8,000, you give me $8,000. You just changed my life completely. I'm a completely different person. My whole family is grateful to you if I gave you $8,000. If I gave you $100, it'd be like, hey, great, thanks. Yeah, we'll go out and have Chinese food. $100 for the family, have Chinese food. If I gave you $8,000, your life would be completely transformed. That's scale, okay? There are 8,000 million people on the earth right now. There probably needs to be 100 million. Probably, given the state of the earth and the lack of fossil fuels, because that has to stop. And when there's 100 million people, okay, yeah, this earth, given that we paved everything over that was of value, okay, fine. Maybe we can find enough unpaved land in people's backyards to support a bunch of people here. What is it going to be globally? 100 million people pulling that stunt? 100 million people finding enough backyard soil to be able to raise food to feed some certain number of people without fossil fuels, without coinage, without UBI, without any money, without any markets and 18-wheelers bringing food in from wherever, Nevada or someplace. You're going to grow your own food and you're going to support people. How many people can you support in the South Bay? Well, it's not the 3 million that's currently here. 30,000? 3 million is 3,000,000 scale. 3 million is 3,000,000. You can support maybe 30,000. What is that? Like less than 1%? Yeah, it's like 1/10 of 1%. You could probably support 30,000 people down here living in your backyards. 30,000 people. And that just scales to the whole planet. And you can't support 8,000 million people without fossil fuels, but we must stop burning fossil fuels. And you can give people money as a transition to, now you don't have a job. Now everything is expensive. Things are hard to find. Well, we'll give you some money and you can still buy some things to get you set up. But what are you getting set up to do? Keep buying things with money they're giving you? What things? Who's producing things? Nobody. Without fossil fuels, there's no production. And there's no transportation. And there's no processing. And there's no storage. And there's no nothing. There's no food preservation. There's probably not even refrigeration, electricity. They run the refrigerators. It's all done. Without fossil fuels, it's done. So they give you money for a little while so you can transition, but transition to what? Well, transition to, you got land, you got water, you got seeds, you got a mortar board plow, you got an animal to pull it with, you got leather treatment, you can make thread. From thread, you can make cloth if you've got a loom, okay? And you figure all this out. You got your UBI and you got some time. What have they got? I've got like a couple of years. Okay. So you're getting UBI and you're going to take this money and you're going to run around, and you're going to figure out all your shit out. And what are you figuring out? You're figuring out how we used to live like 400 or 500 years ago. You'd like to have the internet. You'd like to have penicillin. You'd like to have a lot of other things. Will you have them? I don't know. Who's going to make that stuff for you? I don't know. Is anyone planning on doing that without fossil fuels? No. Can they? Maybe. Can they figure that out? Can they make that maybe a thing? I don't know. Who's going to do that? Nobody. So probably you won't have penicillin. And when you get a small infection, you'll lose a limb, because that's how you used to handle that. You lose a limb, so you try not to get infected. And then you have a local healer who has herbs and poultices and knows something about infections, and they deal with the infection as best they can, and then it doesn't go away, and then you lose your limb. That's how you do things. And most doctors, most surgeons, most doctors solved illnesses with bone saws. Not a joke. You have a compound fracture in your lower leg? Well, lucky for you. I got my black bag and I reach around in here and there's 100 things in here. Maybe probably not 100. There's probably 10 things in this black bag. But the thing I'm looking for is here. Yep, there it is. Bone saw. Damn. And then you pay the physician in bacon for cutting your leg off because you got no money. And he doesn't need money. He doesn't need your fucking money. He's already got his bone saw and he needs food like everybody else. And so you'll pay him in bacon. Get busy, people. Get busy. You better get busy. They're talking about turning off the fossil fuels among themselves. They're talking about turning it off. You better get busy. You better take this shit seriously. Oh, man, it's coming. Damn. I can smell it. I can feel it in the wind. I can feel it coming. It's a coming. And 8,000 million people are not ready. Nobody's ready. I'm not ready. You're not ready. You're not going to be ready. I might be ready. I'm working at it every day. I'm just about to go out there and work at it today. I'm working on it. What am I doing? Don't even want to get started. Gardening. Planting seeds, saving seeds for the next crop, planting seeds, eating the produce. It's nothing. It's just 1% of what I need by way of just gardening. It's just like 1% of what's actually necessary. But it's a start, and it's building capacity. It's building knowledge, what has to be done, how hard it is, how much time it takes, and what are the challenges. That's capacity. That's the knowing part. You got the soil, you got the water, you got the seed. Do you have the knowing? Where's the knowing come from? It comes from a book. It comes from experiment. It comes from experience. It comes from a knowledgeable neighbor. It comes from an elder. Does anyone know how to do this? I got the land. I had to pull up all the ornamental bushes and fill in the swimming pool. But finally, I got the land. I got the water. So long as they can still deliver water from Hetch Hetchy Reservoir and electricity and plumbing and pipes, and it doesn't break, and they can do the repairs. If somebody is managing all this for me, I got water. Okay. I hope I have water, but I got ground now after a certain amount of work. I've got water, thank God. I've got seed. Maybe I bought some. Maybe I planted some plants and I saved the seeds because I knew to do that. Okay. I've got seeds and I've got the tools and I got some things and I know how to do this. Do I know how to do this? Do I have any idea? What do you do with a seed? Where do you put it? Do you put it deep? Do you put it on the surface? Do you do something else with it? Do you have to pee on it? What do you have to do? Do you have to breathe on it? Talk to it? How do you grow crops? What part of the crop do you pick? And when do you pick it? And how do you eat it? And now can I do that all winter? Can I do that all year? Do I have a climate that allows me to grow crops all year? If I do, well, that's one thing less to worry about, right? I can grow food all year somehow. But do I have a variety of food? Do I have trees, orchards? Do I have a variety of trees? Do I have grapes? Do I have all the things? Do I have, chickens for eggs? Does anybody have a cow? Anybody? A milk cow? Yes? No? No? Why not? No, I don't have time. I don't have the land. I don't have the animals. I don't know how to breed animals. I don't know what they eat. Does anybody have a milk cow? Can we solve that problem? Can someone solve that problem? And where do the chickens come from? Does anybody have chickens with a rooster because sex is a thing? Do you? Do you have any of that? No, you don't. You don't. You got a coin, and it's not enough. And the price of seeds are going to go through the roof, and everyone's going to want them, and everyone's going to be lined up for the seeds, and there's not going to be any more seeds, and they're going to riot because there's no seeds, because they understand without the seeds you're going to die. You got a bunch of coins. I got all the coins. Look, I got a handful of coins. Give me the seeds. I'll give you the coins. I don't want your coins because I can't buy anything with coins either. But I got seeds. What are you going to give me? Here's my seeds. They're precious to me. What are you going to give me in return for my seeds? I don't want your stupid coin. What do you have that I need? Anything? Nothing? You got nothing, right? You got coins. You got money. You're telling me you got money. You won the economics battle. Good for you, I guess. Fine. And me, I'm poor, but I've got a bag full of seeds. What do you got that I need? Oh, I see. You got nothing that I need. Then you can't have any of my seeds unless I just feel like giving them to you out of the goodness of my heart. And do you even know how to plant them? Why would I give seeds to you? Do you even know? You're just going to eat them. I'm giving seeds to people who know how to plant seeds, and how to harvest crops, and how to preserve them, and how to share the seeds with the rest of the community, because we're all in this together. Do you have a community? Do you have a community of gardeners? Do you have a community of people who know how to garden, who know how to collect seeds and salvage them, and how to eat the food, and how to prepare the food, and what to plant? Do you have those people? Because I'm not giving you seeds unless you're part of a community, part of a village, a bunch of people who know what the fuck they're doing. Village life. It's coming. Village life is coming for you, whether you like it or not. And you're going to have to circle your wagons, or whatever that means. You're going to have to build fences. You're going to have to bring your neighbors into the circle. You're going to have to clear the land. You're going to have to pull up the ornamental shrubs. You're going to have to fill in the swimming pool. You're going to have to pull up the asphalt. You're going to have to tear down the garage because you don't need a car. Park the car out in the street. Use it for scrap metal. Tear the garage down. Save the nails. Tear the garage down. Save the boards. Save the nails. Words to the wise, okay? Because under that garage is the Valley of Heart's Delight. 150 feet down to bedrock. Under that garage. You didn't even know that until I told you that. And you're going to keep your car, and you're going to park it in that garage. And you won't even have gas for that car. You just spend a lot of money on that car. It's a good looking car, and it used to be so comfortable. You like to just go in there and sit in that car just to remember. You're going to keep that car in that garage. While that car could be melted down for its metal content. Not that it has much. It has some. And you can melt that car down for its metal content. And you could use the rubber tires for something else. You recycle the rubber. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but you can figure it out. I can figure it out. If I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Maybe. But if I can figure it out, you can take advantage of what I figured out, right? Because we're part of a community. Then, when the car is gone, you can either use the garage for housing, or you can tear it down. You can tear it down for the soil, and you can keep the wood and the nails and the electrical wiring and anything else that's available, plywood, roofing, all of it, right? And you could build a different structure somewhere else for housing. And what you're after is the land under the garage. And you tear up the concrete hard. I've torn up concrete. It's so fucking hard. You really need power tools, which means you need electricity and the power tools. And do you have any of those things without fossil fuels? Oh, I have a coin. Do you have them now? Because I do. I got rotary hammers. I got a big ass rotary hammer. It'll tear the shit out of concrete. You get tired of leaning on it, but if you have that, and I have solar power. I have solar power and a rotary hammer, and I can tear up concrete like a son of a bitch. Can you do that? Do you know anyone who can do that? Because you're going to have to do that. And in the future, the people who look back and say, yeah, we survived. Well, that was challenging. The survivors are going to have a story. We don't know who's going to survive, but there's going to be 200 million people left on Earth who survived out of the 8,000 million. There's going to be 200 million, maybe less, maybe even 100 million. It may be grim, okay? But what's their story going to be? And then I'm going to sign off. Here's what their story is going to be. This is how I'm going to end all my videos going forward. This is what the survivors, when they're sitting in their rocker and they're an old timer and they're in their rocker and they're smoking their handmade cigarette, whatever they're putting in it, ganja. And the little kids are all lined up around here, and they're 3 or 4 deep, and there's like 10 little kids here. They're all looking up at grandma, grandpa, and grandpa is rocking in his rocking chair, and the little kid will say, "Tell us the story, grandpa. We want to hear the story of why we're here and how we got here." Grandpa will say, "Well, some of it was luck. Some of it was that it rained when it needed to, and some of it was that the pests didn't come and eat all the crops. And some of it was that, all the chickens didn't all die. Some of them died, most of them died, but they didn't all die. And we were able to start over with the chicken shed. And some of it was that we had enough people with enough knowledge. And we had a blacksmith. We had a guy who didn't know anything about blacksmithing, but he found a book and he learned all about blacksmithing and made his own forge and made his own charcoal. It was the damnedest thing. I'd never seen any such a thing. So we had a blacksmith and we could make nails and we could do other things. But you know what, kiddies? Some of it was just we got lucky. But if we didn't have all that other stuff, the land, the water, the seed, the tools, the knowledge, and the people and the collective idea that we're going to do this, if we didn't have all that, then the luck wouldn't have done us any good. Well, we did have all that. And then we got lucky. And here we are. And I'm here sitting here smoking marijuana, and you're all gathered around my feet, and you're asking me to tell you a story. And, the moral of the story is, when you found yourself deep in a hole, stop digging. And then you try and collect all the things you need to survive in that hole. And whatever it is, you have to identify it and you have to make sure you've got it. And after you've done that and you've done the right thing, you stop digging, you've found all the things you needed to survive, you surrounded yourself with people that are in the same hole that you are, and you pool your resources, you pool your knowledge, you adapt, you change, you learn, you strengthen yourselves, you strengthen each other, you create a village, you create a community, you're cohesive, you agree on everything. And then after you do all that, you do all the right things and you give up on all the things you can't keep, and you change. After you change, after you do everything all right, then you had to get lucky. And that's why we're sitting here and I'm having a good smoke and you're sitting on the ground listening to me tell my tall tales about how we all got to be here. And why the next group of people that got lucky is so far away we haven't even seen them in a month. And the road that we would normally go to visit those people, it's just full of weeds now. It's like you can't even find it sometimes. Probably someone should clear the road, but I don't know. What do we need those people? We're self-sufficient. We've got 200 people living in our village. And, we're having children, and the children are healthy. And if we work hard and we get lucky, we have enough food. And we're always innovating and finding new ways to do things. And I guess that's why you go to visit that other village every so often. You have saddle up a horse and find the trail and blaze the trail and make sure we can get through, and you see how they're doing. You got anything new? You learned anything new? You heard any good news? You got any books? I brought 3 books with me. We've read these books all the way through. I'll trade these books for some of your books that we haven't had a chance to look at. Great. Here's my 3 books. Use them well. They served us well. Some of the pages are falling out. Don't lose any pages. They're all important. Give me your 3 books. Great. I'll go back. We'll see you guys maybe next year. Right? Once a year, you go to visit the other village. And for the most part, you're just on your own. And somewhere out in the world, there's enough people that figured it out and got lucky that there's 100 million people left in the world. Maybe less. Maybe 10 million. Maybe 1 million. You don't even know. Maybe there's nobody. Maybe, in fact, it's just your village and that other village connected by what used to be a freeway. Now it's full of grass and weeds and trees. And you don't even know that you're the only 2 villages left in the world, that there's really just 400 people left of the human species in the entire world. You wouldn't know otherwise. But the only reason you can sit there and be part of the 400 people left on the planet is because you figured it out. You stopped digging. You made sure you had the things you needed, and you had the people you needed, and that they were all in agreement, and they brought skills, and they brought labor, and they brought a good attitude. And they were willing to work, and they were willing, and then you got lucky. Year after year after year, you got lucky. And so now your village and that village over there, you're the only two villages left of the human species, and you don't even know that. You got lucky. And so the species got lucky. And that's where I want to end this. Yes, we have to get off of fossil fuels with immediate effect. We must leave them in the grounds. And then after we do that, after we stop burning fossil fuels and we stop pulling them out of the ground, then the shit hits the fan. And someone giving you money or promising you money, or even promising you free food at the market, that's not going to cut it. You're going to have to survive on your own without any of this, just each other. And the earth and the water and the seeds and the knowledge of how to bring those all together. And a certain amount of luck. So, good luck with any of that. Good luck with all of that. Good luck. Get started. Get started right now. Right now. Start right now. Because we're in trouble. We are in trouble. We're in big trouble. And I don't know when the shit is going to hit the fan, but from what I hear, people are talking about it. People are thinking about it. They're planning for it. They're thinking this is what we're going to have when the shit hits the fan. And they're professors at, universities, and they're scientists and physicists and engineers like me. And they're saying, well, this is what we're going to have to do. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a rough ride. Better buckle up, and you better get lucky, but you better get started. You better start thinking about it. You better buy that book. You better buy the seeds. You better clear the land. You better start planting. You need that knowledge. You need that community. You need to start building community of gardeners, a community of farmers. You have to have a farmer's mentality. You can't travel. You can't buy anything. You can't own anything. You just have to focus on the land, the water, the seeds, the knowledge. Get it working. Get a harvest. Start working on that so you know what a harvest even looks like. Start thinking about it. Work. Focus on survival. Focus on survival. And that's not an AR-15 with 10,000 rounds of ammunition. I mean, you may want that. You may even need that at some point, but that's not what the answer is. The answer is soil, water, seeds, plows, domesticated animals, and the knowledge of how to make all that work for you. It's cloth, which means a loom, which means thread, which means fibers. You don't have any of those. You don't even know what I'm talking about. You have no idea what I'm talking about. But you're going to figure that out. That's what you have to do. You have to figure that out now. What does he mean when he says to have cloth, you need a loom, and for a loom, you need thread, and for the thread, you need fibers. And you need someone with the knowledge of how to bring all that together, who used to be called a weaver, who now has the family name Weaver. Go out in your community, find someone named Weaver. Oh, that's true. That's just a family name. They don't know shit. Okay. Well, tell them, hey, your name is Weaver. You know what that means? That means your ancestors knew how to do this. So I'm asking you, Weaver, figure it out. Follow in the trail of your ancestors. And if your name is Smith, that means one of your ancestors was a smith. You know what a smith was? He was an ironmonger. He had an anvil and a forge and charcoal and big hammers and tongs and all this kind of stuff. He was going at it all day long, hammer and tongs, making nails. That's you. You're Smith. Read a book. Figure it out. We're counting on you. We need someone to be the smith. We need someone to be the weaver. We need someone to be the fuller. We need someone to be the carpenter. And the cooper, and the wheelwright, and the farmer. Figure it out. You got 2-3 years? It's not going to be enough time. Trust me, it's not going to be enough time. Get started. Somebody who got started will get lucky too. And all the stars will line up. And they will have a future, and they'll have a story, and then the grandchildren will collect around their feet, and they'll tell them the story. And, part of the story was, and then we got lucky. Well, I got work to do, and it's not going to get done by itself. I'm going to have to be out there. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. I do this once in a while, generally when I'm pissed off, but not so much today. This is a little more of an optimistic message, believe it or not. This was an optimistic day. If it didn't feel like it, if it didn't look like it, well, my friend, get with the times.